It's been a while. So recently I had some free time to create real quick fun project. And mostly I did it to study Cinema4D Pyro, but there are some other elements that I'm gonna break down for you and talk about them individually. So I'm gonna play the video here. We're gonna have some golden trail simulation, smoke simulation, hand rigging. We have some coffee beans with cool lighting, and also we're gonna have the whole um, studio lighting, which I used Redshift here. So to break down the whole scene, I use Cinema4D. Like 90% of the whole thing you see is Cinema4D, and also I use xParticles just to create the golden trail animation or the motion, or and plus the lightning effect. This lightning effect you can see, but you can also create them with Cinema4D. You don't have to have xParticle, but xParticle can help you to create it faster. For the smoke simulation, if as you guys know, so I used to use xParticles a lot from Ethereum, but since there's a new pyro in Cinema 4D, I found it way faster, which is GPU based. So I think it works much better for me. In some few cases, I noticed xParticle reacts better to collisions, or more accurate, I would say. But overall, I think Pyro is a winner. So let's dive into the scene. So here is my scene. This is a very simple setup. If I zoom out, you're going to see uh, I have a couple of items here. So first is my environment. The environment is one studio drops, which you can easily go to Cinema 4D library and type studio, and you can use this studio backdrop. And also I have the coffee mug and coffee beans here. So you can just type coffee. It brings you all these coffee beans. So they have random shapes. And what I did here, I just distributed them with Cloner, which I show you later in details. I do have the mug. So if you go down, you're gonna see like a couple of coffee mugs, which I believe I used this one, and I scaled it, vertically a little bit, and then I added my own material. The other item is the character, of course. So for the character, I use character creator software. So this is the software, but I didn't do anything inside the software. So what I did, I just exported one of the default characters, and then here in Cinema 4D I started playing with the rig. So if I select, you can see like you can animate each joint individually. And what I did, I just videoed my own hand grabbing a coffee mug as a reference, and then I tried to mimic that, as much as I can. So I'm sure it can be better, but I think for what I wanted, it works really good. So this is what I did. I just animated the whole arm from here, and then for the fingers, that's what I did. Sure, there are some, like, I don't know, you can see them like intersections here, but I don't care because in the whole scene with all the simulation, it's not noticeable. But you can spend more time to fix all these little things. For the lighting, I used Redshift, so it's pretty easy, like couple of native default light sources from Redshift, and then using Redshift camera. And also I used xParticle for the golden trail, like I said. So for these, I use xParticle, which I'm going to show you later in details. And also for the lightning effects, it is also xParticle, but I'm using another plugin, like it's in Ethereum. Sorry, it's not xParticle, because xParticle is separate. So now it's another plugin, Mesh Tools, and I used MT Spline effect. So that's the whole setup of my scene. But let's jump into the details and see how we can create each individual items. Especially I'm going to focus on the smoke simulation and making sure you guys can have enough understanding of the whole thing to get the same effect. First of all, I'm going to talk about the rigging and constraint part. So how you can rig the hand and then how you can connect something to that motion. First of all, like I said, the hand motion, yeah, it's a tedious job. You have to spend time like keyframe it little by little. That's what I know. Well, I'm not a character artist. Maybe it's not the best way, but this is how I did it. I just animate the whole thing. So as you see, I don't care about this part because I just wanted to grab this joint and then animate this for the whole, motion of the arm. And then when it's getting close, it's opens the fingers. So you can just select each individual joints and then animate that. And in order to select that, what I did, I disabled polygon selection in select menu, selection filter, polygon. So if you disable that, you're going to have easier time just to select your joints and play with that. Oops, that's not what I want. Okay. And then, so once you create the motion of the hand, it's time to connect your object, right? So I'm just assuming, whoever is watching this video, knows Cinema4D basics, but I'm going to just show the whole, tips in this video. So there is something in Cinema4D called constraint tag. So if you select your object, like let's say, for example, I have this torus here. I'm gonna bring the torus up here, shrink it down. All right, and I'm gonna just instead of that coffee mug, I'm gonna move the torus with the hand, right? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna right click, go to rigging tags, and then here we do have this constraint. So if I add this constraint, when I select the constraint, there are a bunch of items here. You can just select the transform, and then in the transform, you're gonna add the target. So what's your main object? And I'm not gonna move this guy with the motion of the fingers. I'm gonna move it with the motion of the arm, right? So if you go to the joints, I believe I kept it, so I can just select it here. And if you press S, you can see, I even changed the color. So just so you know, you can change the icon color so you can manage your file easier. Go to basic, here in icons, you can change the color. So this is gonna be my target, right? So I'm gonna get back to this tag again, and then in the target, I'm gonna grab it, put it here. So now let's see what happened. Immediately it jumps to the origin of my target, right? But I'm gonna keep the position. So you can just go here, I believe in the offset, maintain originals. So I'm gonna keep it where it was before. So if I play it now, see what happens. Now we do have this thing, right? So that's pretty simple in Cinema4D, like attaching something to your character rig. That's how I did it. So next step is to actually stopping the rig, from acting to the motion. And what I mean, at some point this guy gonna grab it, right? And then I have another scene, so I decided just to make it, just in two different scenes. And in another one, I just, what I did, I just stopped the constraint tag. Now let's jump to the other scene and see how we can stop the constraint. All right, so this is the second scene, and here, if I play it, you're gonna see, so this hand, just put the, actually like smash the coffee mug on the table, and then it leaves the mug, right? So that's another thing, that's another moment that we should know how to do it. So in order to do that, you can just keyframe your constraint. So if I select the mug, you can see this is my constraint tag. So here I do have keyframe on enable, and I can disable it. So right in that frame, so if I go, it just starts to see disabling, and then from that point on it doesn't work anymore. So simply, if I delete this animation, look what happened. So it just smashes the mug on the table, and then it goes back, you see. So that's pretty simple. That's how you can do it. Just keyframing the actual constraint tag, you can just turn it on and off. All right, now let's talk about the smoke simulation. Well, the smoke simulation has one source of emitting fuel, or it can be smoke or temperature, and then the other part is the colliders. So this one, the sphere here, I just used it for emitter, and then there are two colliders, so the actual mug and also the plane here. So if I play this again for you, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. So this goes down, of course you can see like it's colliding, and also when it hits the ground, it doesn't go through the ground, so it's just colliding. That's these are the colliders. So, but let's see the fundamentals of pyro simulation inside inside Cinema4D. If I grab these items, I'm gonna just put it into a blank scene, and then I'm gonna turn off the material here. All right, turn it off. Delete, 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 delete. Okay, can't even delete this one. And for now, I'm gonna just get rid of this subdivision and just gonna play, with this simple mug. Okay, so you just put one sphere as your source, right? So it's super easy. Just right click, go to simulation tag, and then add your pyro emitter or fuel. So here I just added pyro emitter. So once you add that, automatically it adds the pyro output node here, which controls all the settings. So if I play, see what happens. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out. This is what we have, right? This is really far from what we saw in the video, but it's super easy to get there. Let me add just like 300 frames here. I'm gonna have enough frames. I just noticed I do have some keyframes on this guy, so I'm gonna remove the keyframes. This one and this one, and let's just put it here. Okay, cool. So when I play it, as you see, this is very low quality, right? So in order to add more quality, there are two steps we have to do. First, we're going to select the pyro output, the pyro scene, and open this up in pyro. You're going to have voxel size. So 5 is pretty big for the size of the scene that I'm working in. Like if I bring a cube here, you see this cube is significantly bigger to the size of my coffee mug. So I'm gonna shrink it down to, let's say, 0.5 and see what we have. So if you play, now this is way better, right? So the quality is way better, but looks like it's emitting a lot. So it means that I have to play the second, which is the second step, I have to play with the actual emitter. So here the thickness is set to 10. So I'm going to set it to, let's say, 1. Let's see what happens. All right, that looks much better now. All right, so this is getting closer, but uh, as you see, this is going up, which is exactly opposite of what we were doing here, right? So once it's emitting, it's going down. So it's all about the gravity. By default, if you go to the project setting, you're gonna have in simulation, you're gonna have some gravity. So if I turn this off, see what happens. Okay, so no gravity, just hanging around, which I think the setting here, the good gravity, we're gonna see the effect differently, but this is not what we should do. So I'm gonna keep it as default, like right click, reset to default. But if you go to pyro output, you do have buoyancy for density and temperature. And here for this effect, for the first scene, for the first shot, we don't have any temperature, right? It's just a smoke simulation. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna disable the temperature, just selecting the tag, and here the temperature, I'm gonna turn it off. So if I play, this is what we have, just the smoke, right? And now if I go back here, instead of -5, I'm gonna put something like 5. So see what happens, it's going down. All right. There are a lot of turbulence effect on it. I'm going to select the turbulence and lower the turbulence to something like 1, and then let's have smaller voxel size like 0.2. See what we have. Okay, that looks way better. This is getting closer to what we have in the main video, right? The only thing we need here is the collision. So if I select this mug and right click simulation tags collider, see what happens. So it'll start to colliding with that, but the other thing is that I don't need to do the simulation entirely into the whole thing, so I can just show you what's happening inside. So if you add display tag, turn this on, use the line, you can see it going down right like this, right? So I'm gonna just add this collider to this disk. So there is a disk here, you can see I made a disk here. If I turn this off, you can see. So I'm gonna have another collider. We're just cheating this, simulation volume. So I'm gonna just copy by holding control and adding this here. So and see what happens. Now we're gonna have more. But what happens here, we have a lot of dissipation, so it dissipates soon, right? So let's get back to the pyro output. Here if you go down, gonna find the density tab, and then instead of 7, let's put, I don't know, let's try 1 first. Perfect. Now this is getting, much closer to the main reference. I believe I can just add more voxels, let's say 0.1. So maybe you have to change this dissipation to 0.3. I'm gonna add the other thing I'm gonna add more wispiness to the simulation. So you see this one looking crazy here. So first of all, let's play with the quality settings. There are few items in pyro simulation that determines the quality. One is the sub-steps. I'm going to add one sub-step. The other thing is the 3 setting here. You see, as you see, just by adding the sub-steps, now I have a better simulation here. The other thing is the padding effect, which is already set to 2. I think it's enough, but you can switch this voxel count to 32, which this one can brings more quality, but your scene gonna be a little bit slower. And yeah, I think it's getting closer. Yeah, that looks good to me. And finally, you can just create this cube as the collider. and put it down here and add this collider tag to this cube too. I like to put it, down in order. So first we have the pyro, and then we have the emitter, and then we have the colliders. That's the whole thing. It works, but the only thing I changed in order to get that wispiness, I found this velocity here. So there is a velocity tab on this pyro output, which has velocity smooth factor. So if you increase this to, let's say, 100% here, this gives you, something more like wispy smoke instead of like explosion. And you see, this is what I'm looking for. And I found this reacting much better to collision. So when you just grab the mug, it just kind of stretches with the whole movement of the mug. That is the main setup for the smoke simulation that I did, and I don't see, any other thing. Yeah, except the other thing I added, as you see the source is kind of undulating and has some little motion in it. That one also added a little bit of a random effect to the whole simulation, which I simply added vibrate tag. So that's for vibrate, enable position. I added, I believe, like something around 222, and then this is set to 10. That's how I added this effect. Let's see. Yeah. You can also play with the display or the draw in the tag, so you can see it better. Like the draw quality is set to 75, you can increase it so you can see it better, or multiplier if you want to see, it's just a viewport purposes, so it doesn't affect on your final rendering. You can change a little bit of the settings that we had in the previous setup. So here I can show you the whole pyro. These are my settings. So the voxel size is set to 0.1. I use 2 for sub steps and padding 132. The density buoyancy is set to -4. But here for the velocity, as you see, the smooth factor is set to 1% instead of 100% for the first scene, because I want to have more explosion effects rather than wispiness. And the actual emitter, which is this plane here, the disk, if I go here, you're gonna see we do have some fuel. That's how I made that. So I just keyframe the fuel, and here you can see it just happens for just like few frames. I just add the fuel, and then that's it. And then we're gonna have the temperature, we're gonna have the density, coming out of that fuel. All right, and this was the smoke simulation. Like you see, pretty easy, straightforward, and it's working really good. Lastly, in order to create that slow motion type of effect, if I play this, you're gonna see what happens here after the explosion happened, because first it's very like impactful, and then it slows down. You see that here, right? So in order to create that effect, I played with so many parameters, but didn't work well for me, except this project setting time scale. So I just keyframe the time scale here. When the explosion happens, right after that, instead of 1, by default it's set to 1. I just lower it down to 0.45. So that's how I just slowed down the whole speed of the simulation. Alright, next step, I'm going to show you guys how to create these golden trails with xParticles. Well, you can skip this if you don't have xParticles or if you are not interested. Plus, I'm going to show you how to create this lightning effect in both ways, with native Cinema4D effects and also with xParticles, which I used xParticles here. Alright, getting back to the scene, I'm gonna go back here. So if I play this, you're gonna see this cool effect of this golden trace, right? So the setup is pretty simple. What I did, I used xParticle here. We do have 3 emitters. Each emitter has one single uh, shot count of emission, and then each one has this own XP trails. So the XP trails helps to create these splines. So if I go here to blank scene, I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's play this. I'm going to set this to shot 1. Alright, generate. In generator, I'm going to create the XP trail, and then you're going to need to add the emitter here. So you see it just shows the spline. And the modifier, you can create XP follow surface, and then you create your own surface, whatever surface you want. Just put it into the object tab, and then you're gonna see it just follows the object. I added a little bit of turbulence, so let's see, adding the turbulence helps. Maybe it's smaller. You see some random motions, and then lastly I added XP branch. And here you add the branch, but for the branch what I used it in care mode, so that's how I did it. So getting back to the scene, now you get the whole idea. So these are just playing with the settings. So for example, for the branch, just playing with the length, the minimum and the maximum length, or the tightening or care angle, you know, I played with this setting to get the desired look and feel that I'm looking for. That's the golden trails. And for the, you know, for turning it to geometry, I used volume measure here. So I put the XP spline measure under the volume builder and volume measure, and I just turned them to, you know, something more smoother. Because by default, if you just use the XP spline measure, this is what you can get. So these are the splines I get from the XP trail, and then by adding the XP measure, which has these settings, as you see, you can see some of these, you know, weird edges. I rather putting them into volume builder, and my volume builder setting, just so you know, it has the smooth for operator and mean, and then voxel distance is set to 2. And here I have this dial let erode set to this tiny number. So without that, I'm just losing some of the tips. So I'm just adding that to get the whole effect. Alright, this is the effect for these golden things on top of the mug. And then for the lightning effect, as you see, I have 2 spheres as source, and I have this empty spline effect. So here I can show you in a blank scene again. You can create your source. Let's say these are my sources, and then mesh tools, spline effect. You just add one start and end, and that's super simple. As you see, now it has its own animation, and if you want to animate like a real effect, so you can just keyframe this growth. That's how I did it. Also, I added the fork, you know, like with some angles like this. Alright. This is the way you can do it with xParticles, but like I said, you can do it with native Cinema4D stuff. And in order to do that, you can go to MoGraph tracer, and then in the tracer you bring these objects, and then set this to connect all objects, trace vertices, we don't need that, and then I'm gonna add a displacer to the tracer, adding a noise. The reason we don't see the effect is because this tracer by default doesn't have any points. So I'm going to set it to, let's say, uniform, adding more, and then if you increase this number, you're going to see this effect. So that's how you can create that. You can also animate the noise. So it animates the whole thing. So maybe set to, I don't know, 8. And then in order to animate the length, well, the easiest way to me is to use the MOA spline. So you can use the MOA spline. You don't need to parent these things. So in this one, I set it to spline, and then in the spline, I add this here. You can even hide this. You don't need that anymore. Now you can easily animate this. Alright, that's how you can do it in Cinema4D without using xParticles. Now let's jump to the last part, which is the material, shading, and lighting.